Hello. Okay, I think I got this figured out here. I forgot to make sure everybody was unmuted for a second, but we should all be good to go right now. Welcome everybody watching. This is the first kind of tournament of its kind. This is a collaborative tournament between us at DePaul Esports and, of course, the DePaul Chess Club. And I'm sure people that have been watching our streams before probably know me and probably know Michael as well. Michael has been on a lot of our streams before for DePaul Esports and is going to be doing a lot of shoutcasting with chess. I'm going to be just running production. I'm just going to be, pulling all the strings behind the curtains. And Perry here is our resident chess expert, one of our representatives from the DePaul Chess Club. Perry, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Perry Sadler. I'm a computer science major at DePaul, and I'm the vice president of the chess club, so I'm here to help shoutcast.
Awesome. Excellent. Okay, great. So we should be having the first match coming up, which is going to be actually a match involving one of our esports student leadership members. And that player is going to be Jeremy, and they're going to be going up against Ant Person, which is also known as Vic. She is one of our esports players, actually. She's participated before on our JV roster for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and has participated in a lot of different community events before. So this is definitely a little bit more of an esports match than a chess club match, but I know there's going to be a lot more crossover later up. Are there any, Perry, are there any players that you've seen entering that you think are going to have a really good shot of taking the glory today?
Oh, let me pull it up. Nakasan 6 is my friend Yuta, and he's really good at chess. I've only ever beaten him a few times, so I definitely would keep an eye on him. Other than him, I know Willow Grass has a very high rating on chess.com, so those two might be people to look out for.
Okay, very nice. Yeah, there's definitely been a... one second. Okay, yeah. There's definitely been a lot of different, been a lot of people with really high ratings entering this tournament. Kind of surprisingly so. I think a lot of us were expecting people within maybe the 1100, 1200 rating range, but
there are definitely some higher rated players in this tournament, so we should have hopefully some games that are fights here.
Yeah, a lot of surprises. I think the highest rating I've seen as far as the entrance go is 1800, which is definitely really impressive by chess.com standards. For everybody watching, we are going to be hosting this tournament via chess.com. It's become if you haven't heard of it before, it's a very, very popular, would you call it a simulator? For chess, maybe?
Yeah, you can play online chess games. Yeah.
It's a very, very popular way that people have been hosting tournaments for chess online, have just been using it to play against their friends, against people that they've never heard of before. So it's a really neat program, and we're going to be using it today to showcase some of the DePaul chess talent.
Excellent.
So once everything is ready, I'll go ahead and switch over views so we can see everything. Let me see. I think I got the chess link here, so I'm going to go up here and see if this worked. It did not. Hold on 1 second. So it seems that Jeremy's going to be just a little bit delayed, but that's totally fine. Just making sure everything is good to go as far as the logistics go. But I mean, in the meantime, while we are waiting, Perry, is there any way that anybody watching that, there's obviously going to be a lot of people on the esports side watching that may not be directly involved with the chess club at DePaul. Is there any way they can easily get involved? Is there a contact they can reach out to?
You betcha there is. So we have a page on dhub.com or dhub, whatever it is, DePaul's website for clubs and campus groups. It's literally, I think, just DePaul Chess Club. You'll find us there. We meet every Wednesdays from 5 to 6:30 Central. For the most part, we just play casual games of chess on chess.com. We also occasionally do fun stuff like 4-player chess or King of the Hill chess. And we've also recently been getting involved with UIC's chess club to do events over there too. So we're doing a lot of stuff, and it's fun. It's a good community.
Kudos to you for that. kudos to that sort of involvement. I commend you for that sort of involvement too. This is the part where I confess that I had never managed to get involved with you guys in the chess club because of how inconvenient it is as a commuter student.
Yeah.
Granted, none of that's relevant now because obvious current world event, but
yeah, no, we all do it online now. So if you have that hour and a half free every week, feel free to join us. We have players at a ton of different levels, so don't feel shy if you feel like you're not good enough to play with us or something.
I mean, that's
definitely a good mentality to have. Keep it like welcome. All skill levels, like obviously allowed.
Oh, totally.
I always love to arrange 2v2 Bughouse chess matches when in my local chess club. I've historically been a big fan of Bughouse chess. I'm going to say that much.
I recently just played my first games of Crazy House on chess.com, in which you're allowed to, whenever you capture an enemy piece, you can place their pieces back onto the board. Yeah. And it's definitely
has Crazy House built in.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yes, it does. On the Mac, for those Macintosh users, the Apple chess program has Crazy House built in. So if you wish to experience that, I wouldn't call it a cornucopia so much, but yeah, Bughouse and Crazy House can get convoluted at times, but especially when it comes to piece exchanges too. The piece exchange feature is the most intriguing part from a game design standpoint. For those of you wondering, yes, I am Michael G. I am a game design major at the school. If you didn't get that introduction, so it's a pleasure to be seated in here amongst the chess club.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. I think our first match is underway. We had to do a quick switch over to I think it's pronounced Lichess. Instead of chess. Yeah, Lichess instead of chess.com because there's apparently a bug on chess.com. But things are all sorted out now. We're all ready to get going. So I'm going to cut it over to you guys and to the gameplay footage. To everybody watching, I hope you have a great time.
See ya, Matt.
All right.
Right away.
I thought for a second we had missed the entire game.
Yeah, I got faked out too, but I didn't want to speak up about it. So
yeah, no, this was just our test site ahead of time. So hopefully Matt will pull up the chess here in just a second.
Stand by. Okay, game starts with @person on white and his opponent on black. Who was he playing against first time through?
I believe it was Jeremy, who is a very strong player. I've also played him before.
Yes.
Let's see.
White moves first, and we play. He moves e4, d5, Scandinavian defense set up right away.
Normally, the pawn would actually take back here, but instead,
we see
on push.
d3 counter. He pushes right away on the e file.
Oh man, this is already getting weird.
Yes. This is not the kind of setup I would expect to see for a Scandinavian defense opening. Not at all.
No, definitely not.
Of all, of course, at first you would expect the e pawn to go right ahead and take the d pawn, but then of course you see this exchange in knights. This is effectively turning it into a 4 knights game. I feel we did see a g knight to f3 and a b knight to c6 response, but then out of that, the knight on f6 moves to g4. So what do you think could be trying to set up could either player be trying to set up at this time?
It's hard to say. Okay, well, knight takes. I think that might have been a small mistake for black because he just traded off one of his better pieces. And now white and black basically have the same presence in the center of the board, whereas black before had an extra piece
Bishop pin. There's a bishop pin on black. What will he do? He loses tempo. He trades off. He decides to sacrifice the knight and trade the bishop.
Oh man, this is already a wild game. A lot of trades happening really early on, which might not always be the greatest idea.
And I'm not liking white's setup right now too, because White now at this point in time really has no sort of option to be able to castle his king. He would have to castle it queenside most likely to get much of that safety. Black, on the other hand, much more open. This is the point where Black moves e5. But ultimately, what I would like to be seeing Black focus on would be to get his king into a safe position. White castles queenside, but he still hasn't had that back. He's still in a position where he can easily be back rank mated.
Yeah, both Black's moving his queen out here, which might be a little risky to do so early on.
Do you think Black might suggest a queenside castle as well?
Here would probably be a little smarter to go for the king side. You can develop the bishop out.
Yes.
But we'll have to see what he decides to do.
Yes.
His queen's under attack right now, so he has to deal with that before he can even think about castling.
Yeah.
And he's also threatening on c7. He's threatening a fork where he's attacking both the king and the rook.
Yes.
So he has to be able to he probably has to move the queen back to d8 to protect both.
He moves to d6.
D6 probably protects both as well. White's knight is hanging right now, so White does have to figure out a way to solve that or to create a bigger threat somewhere else.
D4 takes d5, takes e5.
Now the rook sees the knight, so now the knight's protected.
Yes. And the knight c6 takes it back. And I'm liking the setup already right now because the knight could easily at any point move away for the discovered attack on the queen, force it to move away, and delay Black developing his king.
Very true, yeah. Right now he doesn't have any checks with the knight because the queen can always take the knight wherever it decides to go.
He does move back.
So he does move back to attack the queen. And now his rook is also seeing the d file, so he won't be able to castle queenside.
Yes, that is correct. His queen moves away to g6. And I'm believing that's more of an attempt to get that exposed back end. The queen from
moves
e2
in.
goes into check. Knight blocks.
Let's see where he decides to put the queen, or there is a pawn hanging on b7. Yeah, okay, he takes it.
There's a fork. Easy fork.
And now he's attacking both the rook and the knight here. There's really a move that saves both.
I think the easy option here is to move the rook. Yes, exactly. Move the rook from a8 to b8. Threaten the queen, and at the same time, he can't take the knight. He cannot take the knight for free because the queen's threatening. Because the queen is defending the knight. My option right here would be to take that c pawn right where as he does.
And now he's threatening, I think, to just move in the queen, and that's mate.
Yep.
If he just moves the queen over one space to d7. So Black has to be very careful here.
Queen to e6.
So Black's now covering the d7 square, so he can't get mated.
Yes,
At this point, I would like to see White just develop his last minor piece of the bishop. You can actually play a kind of a tricky move, bishop to c4, which attacks the queen, and the queen has to stay guarding from checkmate, so it can't take the bishop. Okay, so he does bring out the bishop.
The f bishop to b5, excuse me. and the queen goes in for check. I think the only option for him now is to move. I would rather have him. I wouldn't want to have that D rook move in to block. Moving back would be the best option right here.
Yeah, just get the king safer. Now black really doesn't have any checks and doesn't really have any counterplay. And according to the computer engine, white actually does have a forced mate here, if they can find it.
Queen, right?
It's mate in 5, so bishop to c5 is the first.
His queen moves back to defend that spot, and I'm thinking...
So there's also a trick here. Oh, he takes the... So the knight is pinned, so it can't take it back. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good positioning right here. The queen forces the king moves out.
White also has the opportunity here to pin the queen to the king with one of his rooks.
Mm-hmm.
Although it might not totally work because black can always move the knight in front of the queen to protect it from the pin.
Yeah.
But they're both white's queen and white's rook would then be looking at e5. So white might actually still even be able to just take it. Yep. We'll see if white goes for that.
Queen b7 to queen b8 to c7. It's important to note too that white has passed the halfway time control mark, so
white honestly could now probably just go for mate with a series of checks. Move in the knight, move in the queen.
He moves the knight.
Let's see where black decides to put his king. Moves it forward.
Yes. I'm going to be thinking that he's going to move the knight once again to set up another mate.
Either that or just getting the queen to that side of the board. Either way, black's in serious trouble with his king in the middle of the board.
Yes, absolutely. You don't want to get trapped in the middle of the board and be in the game, but instead, white decides to take the knight with his bishop.
White decides it's a little bit safer to just take all of black's pieces than go for a mate. That might not work out.
This pawn move though on the G file, I believe it's lost tempo right here. I think this was a lost move right here. You got the response, the check response by the knight this time, which he does respond by the bishop, but then you have the situation right now where the queen is under attack. The rook moves in to respond, and then of course the queen will move in to take, most likely.
We'll see how black might try to survive this.
Instead, the queen moves forward.
Now white, if white takes the pawn on f7, he'll just be surrounding the king, and it'll be very hard, yeah.
Yep.
For black to survive.
This is a dangerous move. Easy move. I can definitely see that white move. Yes. The one thing I didn't notice, though, was the queen being placed over there to defend that g1 that would prevent the rook moving into the open file.
True. So it does slow down.
Instead, he goes in, takes the other rook.
Yeah, white's just wanting to get all of black's pieces off of the board, so they have no chance of coming back.
This is a nice position. I mean, the queen in here is doing a lot of work to try to force white to keep these checks going in. Right. Most of the work that you're seeing right here is being done by the white queen against the black king.
Although now white could move out his H rook because his queen defends the G file now.
Yeah.
So it would be a blunder for black to take it. Moves into queen. That's
This
black's
would be
only
good.
move, and there is a mate here.
That wasn't work.
That was
He
not the
doesn't
mate.
fall for it. He doesn't fall for it.
That was actually a blunder there because
Yeah.
white had moved his queen away. So white actually blundered mate and won. One move before mate. Wow.
Yeah.
If you go back to yeah, that was a really close game, huh? Weirdly, it seemed like white was winning the entire time, but white did have one blunder, one move away from checkmate that could have turned the entire game against him.
Yeah.
If black had spotted it.
The one blunder that was the rook to G1, right?
Yep.
That
So
was
he
rook to
previously his queen had been on G6, which was defending G1. So his queen couldn't take the rook, but then he moved the queen in to check the king. And because he did that, he then moved the rook out where it was unprotected, and the queen could have taken it and forced a mate on the first row.
a back rank mate. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Black could have that would have been quite the upset.
That would have been very quick to end in a back rank mate, and now we're waiting for confirmation for the game to end. I immediately thought too that was a big blunder too when as soon as because I noticed because when I first noticed that the queen was defending that G1 spot, the moment that white moved his rook to G1, I was waiting for that black queen to take that rook. But I wasn't paying that much attention for the back rank mate, to be honest.
No, black moved his king very quickly after checking, and if he had just taken a second to check it out and make sure he had any counterplay, he would have actually had a forced mate. So
yeah, very unfortunate.
I hate to see it
for Jeremy.
It seems like the first round of games are all finishing up right now. So we have some winners. Everybody's going to be playing 3 games within their little bracket and then the top players in each of their brackets will move on to the semifinals and the finals. Looks like Willowgrass, the guy I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the stream, has already won 2 games actually.
Yes.
So he's really going crazy. I'm also in this tournament. So I might be dropping in and out to play games. So I might be playing a game on stream here in a second.
Yeah.
All right, it should just be a few minutes here as we're setting up the next round of games.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So what clubs are you a part of in Chicago?
What parts? Well, most of my involvement's down in here in DePaul Esports, so
Okay.
that's
What other stuff have you shoutcasted for?
I've shoutcasted for League of Legends, I've shoutcasted for Smash Brothers, and I'm basically I think at this point I am the organization's go-to guy when it comes to this sort of ordeal. If they need a designated, if they needed just some guy to dedicate himself fully to shoutcasting, then yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Me and my friends used to play League of Legends back in the day. It's been a while,
Yeah,
but I still remember the ins and outs.
I do too. Other than that, I'm mostly in the idea realization lab in the loop.
All right. Hopefully, we get our next game going here very soon. It seems that my opponent may be AFK at the moment, so it might be a few minutes.
Okay.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going? Just chilling right now.
Yeah, just wanted to pop in just really quick just to say that like yeah, we're just trying to get a couple of matches undergoing right now. A couple of people soon to be a lot of people are actually trying to play on their phones right now. We had a number of people that like just popped in and just be like, "Oh, wait, I'm actually at work right now. I work until 7. I'm going to be probably playing on my phone." And some other people just seem to have been a little bit confused on like how many rounds that they're playing, I think. So, we're just going to be figuring out a couple of things really really quickly. As soon as we have everything ready and set to go, we should be ready to get started with the next match. We're gonna try and have Perry play on stream right up next, but his group appears to be a little bit busy. So in the meantime, yeah, we're just gonna take a quick break. We'll be right back as soon as we're able to get the next match up and running. So see you all in a bit.
All right, it looks like we are back, and we have two players, Joe Rosing and Joey Ashwell, playing right now. So this is a French defense game, which, if anyone knows,
this is an opening I'm very unfamiliar with, so I'm going to just take it to you to explain all the gists of this details.
Yeah, so Joa plays the French defense a lot, so I'm not surprised that I'm seeing this here right now. But basically, with the French defense, you end up with a lot of really close positions. So your knights become very important pieces. This is the advanced variation. So a lot more pieces are going to be staying on the board than normally with the French defense, meaning it's going to be an even more closed position. So knights are going to be even more important.
En passant, there was an en passant move that would that was to threaten the queen, the white queen, as well. But great response by but great response by white to counter. And a check.
White then gives a check. Black blocks with the knights.
Into block, fires the bishop. With the pawn retaliates and the rook already lost.
That's a very classic. But all right, looks like a pawn capture in the center.
Yep.
White is gambiting in an extra pawn to get his knight out faster.
Yep. Yes. This is a very disadvantageous game for black right now. I missed the kingside castle too.
Yeah, black is down a whole rook right now. So black is going to have to fight for this one.
Yes. This could be very...
Yeah, black definitely has to play very precise here.
Yeah.
The computer does not like his chances, I'll say that.
He fires with the bishop. The queen could easily respond. It does.
Now let's see if white wants to trade off
now
queens.
The knight checks. He moves the knight to check.
So here, white is probably trying to get the black king away from the queen so that white can take the queen for free.
Yes. There's a queen. This is a queen exchange. The knight goes in for the other rook.
And white is just eating up all of black's pieces here.
This is going to be an easy move. The next move, I think, who to move? It's black to move. The next move that I think would be major from white would be to, one, resolve this bishop attack. But the next thing I would like to see is to move to use that rook advantage and cover that open D file right away.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. White should definitely get his pieces on his rooks on the C and D files and just
moves
take over the board.
Moves the H pawn to threaten. This would probably be a response against the knight. He does take it. Bishop trade.
That trade's not great for black just because black's already down so many pieces. Trading off another set of pieces might not be the best.
Yes. The H pawn,
yeah.
The H pawn move did remove the risk of the back rank mate right there. Very important proposition to make.
White also has to be very careful about where he puts his pieces because of the knight check.
The D file. The knight check again. Moves forward.
The knight's just hopping around right now.
The king moves instead. A check back there.
Black's king currently doesn't have any moves, so if white is able to check him somehow, it could mean checkmate, but his pieces are a little too far away, so it's going to take a couple of turns. So yeah, he sees that and wants to bring in the rook.
This could be a very good opportunity. I think it would be very crucial for white to try to check for black to try to check the king right now, just to force him to keep forcing those moves onto him. That's what I think very critical for black to do right now, is to just force the white king to move and prevent the development of those pieces for the checkmate. He moves away. Using
White's
pawn.
king is getting bullied. Yeah, but now he's out of checks.
He's out of checks, and both those pawns, except for the e pawn, which I would be inclined to heavily see a promotion to the queen.
It would be pretty incredible, but black might not have enough time here. Black's knight is hanging right now. Mate is looking like a possibility for white.
Moves to threaten the rear rook.
And white just pins it. There's no way to protect the knight now, so the knight's going down.
He takes it, and it's a mate.
The kings and the rooks working together. The king and the rooks working together to mate.
That was nice. That was a brilliant setup by white too. I like that setup that white was employing a lot, but ultimately the thing that made either side lose, the thing that made black lose, was the fact that he was ultimately unable to develop much of his pieces late into the game with the forced moves as a result of being checked and attacked. But yes.
And white played that really well. He saw that tactic very early on to win the rook on black, and from there it all kind of just went downhill. I was able to just kind of, yeah.
The e-pawn promotion was a very optimistic outlook, but unfortunately, yeah, he did, with the material advantage that white had, it was not so optimistic to actually see that in this sort of setting.
Yeah. I mean, I've had tons of games that I think I'm completely winning because I'm up 2 pieces, and then I just let a pawn get too far on the board, and suddenly they're promoting to a queen, and suddenly I'm losing. So there's pretty much always hope in chess to come back, or to at least go for a draw.
Yeah, to force a draw. Oh, speaking of which,
it sounds like I will be playing a game very soon here.
All right, see you around. Yeah, that forced draw mention actually caused me to write a little bit of stuff. But fortunately, let's hope we will not be, realistically.
If there are any draws, I think the easiest thing to do would just to have them play another game. But it's possible we don't even need it because the scores might even out. All right, and I have a game here in a second, so I will be going off of stream for a little bit.
All right.
So I'll leave you to it.
All right, see ya. All right, a new game right away. We have our commentator. We have our commentator Perry going against Chuck. We see e4 to c. We see an e4 opening to c5, and now this one over here is yet another opening I am relatively unfamiliar with. The e4 to c4. But right away, I think right off the bat, the position over here for White moves in, takes c5. Most likely for free, and then he moves e5 to retaliate. That's bishop to c4. And then he moves the bishop back, and I think it might end up. It's most likely for a setup to set up the discovered attack. Moves the b pawn to b4. The a pawn to threaten. And so he moves forward to threaten the knight. Moves it back. And then there's the kingside castle. The rook. This is an interesting bishop spot right here. You've got if you can, he could move the c pawn forward and get the discovered attack on the pin, but that on the knight and the bishop, but that wouldn't do much in terms of that knight moves forward. And the bishop moves forward, most likely to block any sort of defense, that any sort of threatened pieces on the f file. He still moves forward. There's a fork on the bishop and the knight. But it's most likely going to result in the bishop moving out because the queen's because the queen is defending the knight at the spot. the pawn forward to defend that bishop. And then the rook, and then the kingside rook goes on the d file. White to move now.
It was big trash day today there. We didn't take the big trash out. Yeah, we do.
Now black to move.
Yeah, the fire at the airport. All this is a rerun. Even this. What do you? It's a rerun.
Yep. And now back. We're now back to black to move. And there's the castle. Knight moves for the B knight moves forward to D2. King moves into this. King moves into the rank 7. This is looking to be he's going to develop that knight. He's going to move that knight forward to check the king in this spot. This could be this is an interesting proposition right here because you've got the knight moving forward to attack the rook and the queen, but at the same time a position where he's easily able to check his king with the f3 knight. I'm wondering what he would go for in this situation. Would he actively ward off turn against the threat, or would he press the attack? My instance is to actually move that f3 knight to g5. The 3-minute warning for parry, the white. He moves the rook. And a queen trade ensues. So he moves the rook to force the queen exchange. And now both sides have no queen. And at the same time, black to move. He's got both. They've got the free rook, which he does lose, which they do go for. A1 to C1 on the rook. The knight moves in to block the attacks. And the pawn presses forward. This could be easily. The pawn presses forward. The knight moves into to f4. The bishop takes one rook. This is most likely an exchange. But the knight moves in for a check, gets the other one. And now black moves in, and the black king ends up taking the bishop. This is a very interesting spot because white has no immediate material to force mate right away. He can try to get the promotion. He can try to get the pawn promotion, but with the positioning right here that he has, he has very bad positioning to get a possible pawn promotion as well. Black to move right now. And I think most likely he could most likely either try, he does move the rook, one of the options that I have presented earlier. He moves the B pawn forward to try to defend that pawn. Does he go for the capture? But then at the same time, both of those pawns are frozen in place, which leaves more room for black, which leaves more areas for white to develop the rest of the board. King from G7 to F6. And 1 minute left for white. This could very easily be a timeout. The F pawn moves forward too. And I moves the knight. And the knight moves forward. And the knight moves to white to move. 30 seconds left in the game. He's probably going to end up making one move to lose tempo. But he doesn't. What I didn't see over there was the knight at that spot, and now after this one move, the knight is in a position to where he can threaten the rook and simultaneously the rook's exchange, but the knight's at the spot where the rook is. He can't get that promotion anymore. White to move, 20 seconds left. Moves the king, loses tempo. Takes the pawn. Takes that pawn, and now that's lost tempo right there. More. And this is most likely going to be a timeout. And then black wins on time. Unfortunate too. And now the post. And I think what happened on that match very early on was I saw a lot of questionable decisions that White had made on position, and that led to a bunch of these exchanges that ended up going into Black's favor. So it put White into very high pressure situations that ended up taking too much time on, because this is a 10-minute chess, because this is 10-minute time control. And that just gave Black enough time to just stall out the game and time White out. And so with that, Nathan has clenched his spot on the elimination round. I see. Right. So the next match with that move, Nathan has clinched his spot, but for the sake of tournament completion, we are going to be playing next Perry, who was White on this last game, versus Hajane. Did I say that correct? H. Jane. So please stand by as we get the next match set up. For night's game, Roy Lopez. And then the quick castle kingside. And it's White to move. And Hardik is his name. So Perry on Black this time around. It is Hardik's turn to move. And the most advantageous move right now would have been possibly for the bishop to take c6, but he doesn't do that. He instead opts to take to move the d pawn forward, threatening that e pawn up ahead, but that's most likely going to result into an exchange with that knight with the knight up ahead. That's going to end up with the with the f3 knight now on e5. So black to move. Moves the d pawn d6. Bishop moves to c2, and that's a very, I'm thinking this is a very disadvantageous position for white at this present time. The bishop exchange goes on, taking the knight over here, but taking the knight, manages to get off and manages to lose the pawn, but white developing his queen forward on the d file. He moves to threaten and moves the knight to c5, threatening the queen. Moves it back. Yeah, the a6 pawn to threaten the bishop on b5 moves it back. But it's now threatened by the knight, which he does take, and the queen takes it back. Knight moves forward. Black to move. Ooh, a fork. But he just moved right straight into the bishop. He moves straight into bishop, but he does take it, and the pawn takes it back. Rather interesting too to have that, to force that maneuver out on the black side. Moving the g pawn forward. And I moves the same pawn forward 1 space, most likely to prevent the back rank mating. Now the H pawn all's in a line. And now he set up, and now white sets up the pawn chain from H2 to F4. Nice pressure onto that F pawn that just moved forward too, because it's most likely to force a capture onto the E5 pawn. He does follow through. Black can easily respond with either the knight or the D pawn, but that would leave most likely the knight, because doing so with a D pawn would open up the queen and force a queen exchange. Five minutes left on black. But black moves forward, loses tempo most likely. That was... Yes. And he takes it forward. Yeah. Manages to lose the queen. This is mate. Manages to pin with both the rook and the queen. Going up ahead. There's no implications for advancement for us to who advances in this match, but Perry will finish third in group.
Okay, awesome. So that just about wraps it up for the group stages.
Yeah.
I believe that was the final set that we have to play.
Yeah, that was the final set of the group stages. I think, though, too, I wanted to point out that that last match was won by white at the occasion when Perry had lost his queen. You had the setup over there with the 2 pawn chains on from H2 to F4, and then the opposing pawn chain from C7 to E5, and then all the exchange of pieces at that time ended up with black losing his queen, and that's the one major thing that cost black the game.
Yeah, definitely a lot of plays so far where it's just like kind of like one player just trying to lock out the other, just like secure the win by like a technical victory.
Yep. 4 knights game.
So yeah, that should be pretty much everything here. I don't know why Challonge's self-esteem seems to be a little bit lagging behind here. Let me see if it forgot something. Oh yeah, never mind. Hold on. Let me put this in.
Karma versus Naka, yeah.
Yeah, I thought I set that one up, but I guess I did not.
Yeah, so we have our final 4. We have Richard Ashwell. We have Richard Ashwell III. Willowgrass Nathan, who had played 2 games ago, and Naka-san into the final 4. And now I'm just going to be waiting until we invite Perry back into the chat.
Yep, I think I see him right here, so I'm just going to go ahead and have him hop on. Perry, welcome back.
Hello, how's it going?
Welcome back.
I was commentating while I was gone.
Well, it's typical of me to solo commentate. There's a lot of when I solo commentate, it tends to leave a lot of pauses in between because I really like talking to someone to commentate as well. Especially
you have someone to
people,
bounce off of.
Yeah, it's easier that way. It is significantly easier. I think exponentially is the right word to use in that regard. But yeah, that was a very interesting last game that you had too. I think I was literally like eyes widened up, like with when that queen sacrifice had occurred. That was played out really, really brutally.
It was a moment where I decided to take a risk with storming my pawns because I play a lot of King's Indian games in which those are kind of the ideas. And I thought this is a situation where I can do that. And totally turns out I was wrong. I totally just blundered at one point. I blundered my knight.
It was a 4 knights game double Spanish variation too. That was an easy opening for me to follow through. I'll say that much.
Yeah, no, it's that's definitely like the theory around that. You basically just copy whatever white does for a little bit, which makes it very easy to start with.
What was that one opening that you ran with the game prior to the game versus Nathan, which he had won?
Oh, I'm trying to remember what it was.
It was E4 to C5 and then D5 or something like that. That was another very unfamiliar opening.
Oh, that was a Sicilian game. And whenever I see a Sicilian, I play the Alapin variation where I push the pawn forward at the beginning to try and secure the center. But yeah, I thought definitely I'm a lot more proud of the first game because that one was a little bit more of a fight. But with the second game, I think I just kind of blundered. Not my proudest moment, but I had fun playing them. So
that's honestly like the best thing you could ask for at the end of the day. It's like if you're competing without like enjoying yourself to any degree, then there's no point at that point. So it's a good thing you're still able to have fun even when you do make a couple of silly mistakes along the way.
True. It's always fun to play good players who I know. So
yeah. It makes a lot of sense. So yeah, we should be just about ready to get semis underway. We have our 4 finalists as we talked about. So the first one that we're going to have up is Richard against Yuta. And so we're just waiting for them to get the match all set up. And then, yeah, we should be ready to move right into it.
Cool.
I see them both typing in Discord. What's up?
It's interesting to note, too, that every single player who clenched their group did so very cleanly. So we're gonna have some exciting matches in this final 4. I'll say that much.
Definitely some higher level play for sure.
Yeah, and these are all your guys, right?
I know some of them.
Like none of these people are actually endemic to DePaul Esports or anything like that. If you know what I'm trying to hint at.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. Yeah, so Yuta, who's Nakasan 6, he is a very regular member of the chess club. I know Richard Ashwell has recently joined the chess club, but I don't think he's come to any meetings yet. Same with Willowgrass. And I'm not sure about Chuck.
Nathan was his. They told me that he was Nathan.
Yeah, a little bit of a confusing, like a kind of like situation where.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Nathan, but everyone else is for sure part of the chess club. So, yeah, no, we should see some high level play here. I think Yuta's the only one I've actually gotten to play though. So,
the latency too, that was a little bit of an issue I had too with the last game. It made it hard to follow through when those 2 pawn chains were set up and the pawn the game winning exchange actually happened at that point, because Because past that game-winning exchange was just check after check after check.
Yeah, no, he kind of had my king in a corner after that, and I didn't really have any counterplay. So that with the pawns threatening to promote just kind of made it all fall apart very quickly.
All right, so it seems that the link. What's that?
Excuse me. I
What
was
were you
just
saying?
looking at openings. I was just looking
okay.
at other openings. I'm sorry. Carry
Oh
on.
no, you're good. No, I mean that's a good thing. Brush up on a little bit of your knowledge of openings right before we get into like these higher level matches. So you know what? More power to you. I was just gonna say that the link seems to be ready for them to get started with the match. So we're just waiting for them to the two players to kind of like initiate the game. And then once that like spectator link is up and ready, we will switch right into it.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what openings they choose to play. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head what Yuta plays. And I know he does play French defense sometimes. So it's possible we see a French defense game here, but we'll find out.
All right, sounds good. And it seems like we are all set to go. So I'm going to turn it back over to you guys. Feel free to take it away. And to everybody watching, I hope you've been enjoying the show so far.
Yes. All right. So we got Yuta versus Naka, and right off the bat,
it's a French defense. Right? What did I say?
It's French defense. I was about to call Scotch variation because of that D5 pawn right there, but yeah.
Let me pull up my engine so I have an idea of kinda who's doing well.
I'm doing that right now, and I think I have white on the advantage right away. This is chaotic to set up, I'll say that much, especially because we enter it at a delay. French defense, Tarash open. Yep.
Yeah, this is a very standard French defense setup where you kind of leave all the pawns in the center looking at each other.
All right. D4 takes C5.
First capture the game. Now, the idea with black is to take that pawn back with the bishop so you can develop and recapture with the tempo.
Yep.
White decides to capture the other one. Okay.
And then the pawn goes to capture as well.
And now white's actually defending that one pawn on c5.
Yep.
So black is unable to develop the bishop quite yet.
Nice pin. Good response.
White immediately unpins it. And now black's just looking to castle, so he develops the bishop anyway.
Yes, he develops the bishop, and both sides, they do kingside castle.
Yeah, so far this is a very typical French defense game. Except with the pawn still being alive on c5, I think.
Yep. It's kind of opening, too. Do you think it leads more to very aggressive strategies mid-game or quite the contrary? Which do you think would the general direction of this game end up going?
I think with French defenses, it tends to be a very non-confrontational type of game. You end up playing with a lot of closed positions. In this game, a lot of pawns have already been taken, so it's a little more open. But most of the time, I think it would be a little bit more of a passive game.
Yes.
Which, yeah, as we can kind of see already, like both sides are kind of on their side of the board.
That's a fork, but that's going to most likely lead to a knight capture.
True. And also the pawn on c5 is hanging right now.
Yeah. It's really easy, though, for that pawn to get pressured by the rook, by the a rook and or the queen, too.
Oh, so. Totally. Yeah.
there's not really that much that could be accomplished by moving that pawn forward. Should the knight on c6 decide to take the take the white knight on d4, but we'll just have to wait to see how this plays out.
Yeah, something's about to happen. This is definitely, we're getting to a key moment in the game.
This is black to move.
Yeah, and Yuta's taking his time for sure here.
He moves the bishop back and advances the b pawn up too.
So now that pawn on c5 is just kind of locked in place. So black's dark squared bishop is going to be a little unhappy.
Yes. And now he moves the knight forward.
Decide to trade.
Decides to trade. Does he follow through? He does. And now threatens with the other knight.
Yeah, he just wants to trade off all the knights, it looks like. He's probably happy with his further pushed pawns. So after this, if Yuta does decide to take this trade, white will have a slight, probably initiative just because of those pawns that are all a little further.
Yes, he has the initiative right now. White does have the initiative right now. Not that significant in this stage of the game, but easy to snowball out of. He does.
All right, Yuta decides to take.
Trades with the bishop. White
and black saves the pawn.
Yes. Bishop moves to defend. Does he follow through? He moves the bishop one.
White's just putting his pieces on their best squares right now.
Yes.
Black could actually... Oh, okay. Black moves the queen.
Yeah.
All right. They're both kind of... Yeah, they're both kind of setting up their pieces to be pointed towards the other person's king right now.
Yeah.
So we're about to see a big attack from one of them. Or maybe from both of them. Maybe we'll have simultaneous attacks going.
Yep. This set of the game... The stage in the game is really, really nice to witness as a spectator too, because you've got so many attacks to follow through, so many pieces to, so many directions which the game could possibly throw over in just a couple moves.
Oh, for sure. The middle game is probably the most important part of any chess game, other than maybe the opening, or maybe the end game, because that's when the game's decided. They're all important. But
potential queen attack on the bishop right away. What does he do?
He probably has to move the queen somewhere here.
Yes, this is definitely a forced queen movement. Halfway for Naka. Goes forward one space, doesn't capture anything, and a big initiative gained by white, according to the engine.
And for that exact reason. So now white is setting up a battery, attacking black's king, and there's not a lot of great ways to defend it.
I think that one queen move was a move that lost tempo for black.
Yeah, because white was threatening that queen move to d4. And black moves the bishop back to defend the pawn and to defend his king. White now has some options. He can't really do a lot on the king side anymore, so he might start shifting to just pushing pawns or getting his pieces better on the queen side.
Moves rook to d1.
Developing his last piece. So now all his pieces are in play. And Yuta follows up with a very similar move.
White to move. 7 minutes left in their clock.
Yeah, white has definitely been moving a lot faster. And his position is a little better right now. But all that can change in one move, so you never know.
Moves to threaten the rook.
It's not really a threat though, because Black's rook is already defending the other rook.
Yeah, absolutely.
So White might have lost some initiative there.
Yes. But then Black moves the rook one space up. Threatens the pawn. Will they
So now, okay, so now White is planning on, if Black takes the pawn, he can take the rook on d8 and then take it again when the rook recaptures. So it's really important that Yuta doesn't take that pawn. We'll see what he decides to do here.
Yes. He moves the bishop.
So now White's bishop in the center of the board is unguarded and the rook is looking at it. Oh no, there's a rook on the other end of the board. I'm blind.
Bishop captures. The bishop captures that one pawn that we saw, and the queen moves away.
Yuta's definitely in a uncomfortable position right now.
Yeah, I feel that this could easily result into taking b7 right away. On a whim, you could take b7 and trade a rook. He goes for the check.
True.
Which the queen retaliates to follow through, and he takes the...
And now he's able to capture along, yeah. So this idea from earlier was able to come back up.
Pawn blocks.
Oh.
Goes for the...
So Yuta was trying to cut off the queen, but the rook was able to take with check. So Black was able to...
No, there isn't. Not anymore. Sorry for getting your hopes up.
I would definitely be uncomfortable right now if I were Black.
Mate in 10 for White at this... Possible mate in 10 for White at this position, depending on circumstances.
Black still has some ways to survive for a little bit, but it's not looking great for Black, no.
Mate in 3 now. Possibly. This most likely is a trade, yep. Queen exchange.
And now White's hoping to just win an end game with a rook up.
Yes. Because unless Black manages to promote a pawn, which doesn't seem all too likely in this position, he cannot win this game. He'll have to force a draw.
It's very unlikely because both of his pawns are very far from promotion, and White's pawns are already ready to storm on the queen's side of the board. So
king and bishop too is not an easy way to win a game.
And then White forks and Black resigns. That was a good fought game by White. And by both of the players. The game went on for quite a while there.
Mate in 8, by the way.
Oh, from there on out?
Yeah, from there on out, there could have possibly been a mate in 8.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of counterplay at that point for Black, unfortunately.
Yeah. With only one pawn and with only 2 pawns and your king, of course, neither pawn could possibly promote at this position too. This was pretty much a foregone resignation. It was a foregone conclusion at this point. I think past the time when, I think the one moment when this game was foregone was at the moment when they exchanged rooks.
Yeah, no. White saw an opportunity with a tactic to win a rook, and he took it. And that was definitely the moment that decided the game.
Yes.
All right, so next up we should have Will and
Willowgrass
Chuck.
Willowgrass and Chuck. Nathan, I guess, if you're...
And then whichever one of them wins will be playing Richard in the finals.
Exciting.
All right, so it seems like they're setting up the next game right now. So we have a couple minutes here to just relax and not have to think about chess. Although we probably should.
Yeah, we really should too.
All right, it looks like we just got the link for it, so it should be up in a minute or so here.
Yes. Inclined to possibly see another Sicilian game for this match, but
It's possible. Sicilian is popular at higher levels, which both of these players are playing at. So
yes. One sort of opening that I have that I've not tried as often, but I've been looking into the execution of is the Caro Khan defense.
Karagon's very solid opening that can really be played at any level.
It's a very solid opening. It's a very passive opening, I feel, is what it is. It doesn't. I mean, you've set up the pawn chain early on, but
yeah, it's a little similar to the French defense in that you tend to have much more positional, long-term planning games with slightly more close positions. All right, here we go.
Opening. First time we see that in a while.
Yeah, we had a lot of E4 players today. Ooh.
Yeah. Indian game. And now I'm trying to follow through with...
I know they're playing so fast. I'm trying to keep up with my engine.
Same here.
All right. It's very standard. The doubled pawns on the C file aren't actually that bad for white because in the future, white can just put the rook there, and then he has a piece attacking the black's pieces. So normally you'd want to avoid doubled pawns, but here it's actually okay.
Yeah, we got an Indian game this time around. They've never I mean, it comes with the relative uncommon. It comes with the relative rarity that is an. Now I'm trying to find out what move I missed.
I've done that a few times today for sure.
All right, my game's now synchronized. I've got this. I've got past the fast point. That's always. But the Indian game too, you've got that D5 opener, and then the aggression on the left side of the board as well to develop that queen side relatively quickly. And then you've got much of your king side material as they were doing right here, moving toward the queen side to pressure early on.
Yeah, so black's just now trying to close down the position. This is a very typical idea in the Indian games. Because in the future, it's possible that black actually pushes the pawns in front of his king. We might not see it here. Game's still very even right now. This is anyone's game.
Yep. These guys are playing really, really fast too.
Yeah, we are definitely seeing some of the higher rated players here. So we're going to have some higher quality.
Was it
White
relatively
develops the
common
rook.
for? Have you ever seen either of these players do the Indian opening in practice?
I don't think I've ever seen either of these players play before, actually. I know them, but I don't. I've never actually gotten to play with them. But the Nimzo Indian is a very solid opening that I've actually been meaning to learn because it's similar to kind of what my playstyle is. And it is kind of turning into, we're going to see a lot of moves that don't necessarily attack anything, but just set up pieces for the long term to be really good. Black develops the queen.
Queen opening. Okay, not so much a pin setup right here, but
White's trying to remove that knight is very it's looking very nice. It's on an outpost, so it can't actually be attacked by any pawns, which makes it very hard to remove unless you're going to just trade it off. So I think White is just wanting to trade it off so he doesn't have to deal with that kind of strong knight.
yeah. Black moves, goes to...
And Black decides to open up the file. So White's rook now controls the B file, so it's pretty powerful.
Yep.
And now
Rook
White has
bishop.
this nice skewer here. Yeah.
Yeah. Then the white bishop to skewer the rook against the queen. Queen moves away. Most likely, probably going to get results in a rook for bishop exchange, which I would personally take.
Yeah, rooks are better in the towards the end of the game than bishops. So I'm actually surprised White's even hesitating here. I would have taken it right away.
This would I'm not certain what's going on inside White's mind right now.
There might be a good in-between move somewhere that he's trying to find. But no, he just decides to take it right away.
Yep. And he develops the rook couple, but doesn't advance it way too much.
Yeah, he's now probably trying to set up both of his rooks on the B file, so he just has complete domination of that file and the queen side of the board.
Yeah.
Oh,
he moves to the A file. What is he doing?
So now, if the bishop decides to move wherever it moves, he's going to be able to win the pawn on A7. So if he can, he should probably try to protect it. But the only move to protect it is that knight move to B8, which is what Black decides to do. And it's a little sad because your knight's not really doing a whole lot in the corner of the board.
Yep.
So White's definitely turning up the heat here.
Is your engine synchronized?
Mine is currently, yeah. I'm not looking at future moves too much, though, just in case we get to something really weird where I don't know what's happening.
We just have a short queen move going on, though.
Yeah, right now it's the time for more just like positional moves because there's not really any captures or attacks to go for.
Yeah.
So White develops the queen a little more. He might want to put the rook on the B file.
The material advantage, though, is held by White right now, so...
True. He gave up a bishop for a rook, which is going to be worth it if this game goes to an end game.
B file.
And, yeah. So now, yeah, White gets the rook out.
And I'm feeling that they might actually go for it. I have a gut... There's something inside me that is telling that they would go for it. But, no.
We'll see.
I'm having second thoughts.
He actually, I think, could take the knight, and then after the rook takes back, he could take the bishop, which would probably be worth it for White. So he might actually go for it. I'm not sure if it's the best move because it gives up a lot of control over this side of the board. Because now White has White would be giving up a rook that's controlling the file and allowing black to get his rook to the file, which would make black's pieces a lot better, even though he would be winning material. So it's something for both black and white to contemplate whether or not they want that. Black's taking his time here. This is definitely a key moment.
Yeah.
The knight also can't move out of the corner right now because the queen and the bishop are on its 2 escape squares, and the pawn and white's pawn in the middle of the board's blocking its other escape. So the knight is stuck there. So if black decides to go for the sack, where he's giving up the rook to take a knight and then winning the bishop, there's not a whole lot that black can do to stop it.
Moves the pawn forward.
I think black is wanting now for white to take the pawn and then for him to be able to take the pawn back with his knight to get his knight out of danger. But then that would hang the bishop. So I'm not actually completely sure what's going on here.
Responds with the bishop, with the, the exchange. The bishop exchange plays out that way.
Yeah, so white trades off a rook for a bishop and a knight. And then black takes the pawn in the center.
And I think that one pawn move ultimately ended up losing tempo.
Pawn takes.
Yes.
And now white has an extra knight here.
No rook advantage, though. Both sides down to 1 rook.
Yeah, no, white is doing very well here. If he doesn't horribly blunder, he should be able to turn this into a win.
Yes. Most likely move is probably going to be either a6 or queen move, or queen to...
Yeah, I'm having trouble to find a plan for black here. His best plan is probably to get his queen to a better square.
Yeah, I was inclined to think that he would try to force the queen exchange at some point in the game. At that point in the game, I should say.
Yeah. White moves the rook out of the way. The queen now protects the pawn on c5, so it's a little hard to get rid of it for white.
G-pawn moves forward.
Black's deciding to start advancing his pawns in the hope that he can promote if this gets to an endgame.
Sets up the pawn chain.
Black could threaten mate here to gain some initiative, although it wouldn't do a lot. Okay, he decides to move the king instead. Black is definitely banking on the fact right now that if this goes to an end game, he will have a king and pawns that are closer to the end of the board than white does. So that's his plan right now.
Yeah.
We will see if that plan phases out or not. White improves his knight. White could, if he wanted to, trade off the knight for 2 pawns, and then he's up a ton of pawns in an endgame that are also starting to chain towards the end of the board. Whether or not he decides to do that, we'll see. But it's definitely an option for him to be up 3 pawns rather than a knight.
H pawn moves up 1.
All right, and black or white goes for it. He's gonna. So now after queen takes, rook will take the pawn, and now white has a bunch of pawns that have a very good shot at promotion here.
Yeah.
Black threatens the rook.
Threatens the rook.
And he's also aligning himself with the king potentially on the dark squares. White attacks back.
This is an interesting move.
Yeah, that was a blunder. Black has to move queen a3 here.
I was not one.
Wow, he found it. So now black has a ton of initiative because he's able to kind of bully white's queen away and to possibly threaten mate.
Yeah.
And just like that, like black's actually totally fine here.
Check.
Black actually has forced
1.
mate here. Yeah.
Mate in 2, actually, given the circumstances. Loses his queen. Big initiative, right? Big initiative.
Yeah, black was threatening checkmate, so he had to give up the queen. And then, wow, black got very lucky to spot that move. That was a well thought game. Black just held on and just kept going, even though he was down so much material. And he, at one point, he had his opportunity, and he took it.
Ouch.
He saw it and took it.
Yeah. Queen move.
That was a great game. That's why you never resign, no matter how behind on material you're doing.
It's the knockout stage too. You're putting everything on the line as well. There's definitely a psychological component to it.
Oh, totally. Man, playing in a tournament setting definitely made me play a lot more nervously than I normally would. Caught me off guard.
Yep. You can win. I mean, this kind of comment's going to be more relevant to our DePaul Esports regulars, but it's especially prominent when you're witnessing the DE Smash players play. It's a very different setting in there, but honestly, I recommend you try it out. You go ahead. DE Smash, they run their regular meet. They run their meets all too often. You can find out when they're running on the Discord server.
Oh yeah.
Yes. But yes, very different setting tournament play compared to your just regular couch playing.
All right, and it looks like the finals are getting set up here in just a moment.
King's Gambit.
So for the finals, we're going to have Richard and Willowgrass playing.
Yes.
It'll be I think they're around the same level, so it'll be interesting to see who comes out on top.
Yeah. Yes, this is the final match of this tournament. So
The King's Gambit. The gambit in which you gambit your king for initiative.
yeah.
So that's a little joke right there for all you chess people at home who know that the King's Gambit is not that.
Speaking of which, like, I mean, there's a lot of weird opening names that I've heard all throughout the place. You've got
Oh, there's a ton.
the Elephant Gambit for one thing, the
Elephant
Latvian
Gambit?
Corkscrew Counter Gambit.
Yeah, the Latvian Gambit. Yeah, there's an opening called the Grob opening, which is when you play the worst theoretical first move, and some guy named Grob decided to play it a bunch, so they named it after him.
G4.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
worst possible opening you could make. G4.
All right, and we got our finals underway.
E4 to start out. This is a Sicilian
And we're getting
game.
a Sicilian game. All right. Let's see what variation White decides to
loaded.
play. Knight f3. And they are playing very fast. They know all the theory here. They know all the theoretical best moves going into this. Yeah, wow, they're playing really fast.
Oh my god, I'm having trouble keeping up.
Yeah, they know these are people who have just genuinely studied these openings and know exactly what move to play based on what their opponent plays.
Ouch. I have to set this up manually.
I think I'm all caught up. And I think they're out of theory now because now they're taking their time.
Yeah. It's always fun to watch when you've got two chess people who play out of theory. And then they've studied one opening several times through and know it by heart.
Yeah. And even like some of the best players will know at least what the ideas of like what their ideas should be after they're done with theory too.
Yep.
Because a lot of problems that lower rated players have is that they'll learn a bunch of theory and push out a bunch of moves, but then as soon as they're out of theory, they have no idea what to do and suddenly start blundering. All right. Black's probably wanting to trade off the knight for the bishop so that he can have the so that it's just down to knights and he can have the bishop on the board.
He moves the pawn forward to threaten.
So White doesn't mind the trade, so he's basically instigating it. Either you have to move your knight back and waste a move, or you trade it off. So
yeah.
And I think that trade was fine for White. Black starts getting his knight further out.
Yep. A pawn moves forward.
It's just a solid move that's going to improve your position. When you're having trouble figuring out what to do, that's also always a solid move to play. And here, White doesn't actually have a lot of space because Black's pawns are all in certain places that prevent White from moving any pieces forward, or at least the knights. Black develops his rook. And pretty much all of Black's pieces are in play now. And so are White's, which is a really good thing to see, especially at this level. You'd almost expect it at this level. All right. White's setting up a gun on the D file. That's what you call that when you have two rooks and a queen. And Black moves his knight over. Black's wanting to put his knight on f4, which is a really good square for it. It's defended by a pawn. And it'll also be attacking a queen, so it's a little bit harder. You can't kick it away right away. You can't just push the pawn up to g3 because you have to deal with the fact that it's attacking your queen. So white moves the knight to try and control that square. So now if black moves it there, he can just capture it. And now black's knight is actually a little confused. It's probably not sure where it's going. So we'll see if black finds a purpose for it, decides to trade it off. We'll see. He's got some options. So black's now looking here to get both of his rooks on the f file, and he'll just have complete dominance over one of the half-open files on the board. White has a couple of options here. We'll see what idea he decides to find and go for. But
Yes.
but white spaces are definitely a little constrained right now. He can't move anything too far out, or else black could just take it. So he has to play a little more passively and just play very solidly and prevent black from ever infiltrating. All right. White moves the rook forward.
Moves the rook. Moves the rook
So-
forward.
Yeah, this does a couple of things. It allows white in the future to possibly put the rook on c3 to threaten the queen and to gain more power over the queen side of the board. It also just defends the knight an additional time if ever black decides to sack on the f file. Ooh, and black actually decides to go after the pawn on the c
Wow.
file instead of setting up on the f file.
Yes.
And then white follows it up with that move.
Yes, developing the rooks both on the c file too, but then there's an interesting scenario that I'm seeing right now with the queens being threatening basically each other. You can get this could be a very easy means for either side to force a queen exchange at the spot, which they don't right now, but
Yeah, there's going to be some trading soon, I think. Someone's going to want to break through. So black saves his queen,
he
and white does
fires it.
decide to trade.
Trades the rook for queen. Rook for rook, I should say. Never mind.
And now we'll see what white wants to do. He might actually decide to, okay, so he moves his knight back. He wants to get his knight over to the queen side. Because right now, black only has his queen on the queen side of the board. And if he can get more pieces over there, he can start attacking.
Moves his queen forward.
So this is attacking the pawn on f2. I don't think it's checkmate, but it's definitely really devastating if white allows that. And so white moves the knight back to block the rook from attacking that square. And now black starts advancing on the queen side.
Yes.
Both players are fairly even on the clock. White's down a minute.
Yeah, we just passed the 5-minute warning for white, so
Hopefully they won't need to even worry about time here, but they
Yeah.
might if it goes down to if this gets down to an end game and it's still very close. Black decides to
Knight
move the knight,
exchange. Knight
and
exchange. Knight for
that's
knight.
why Black's knight was there. Black recaptures with the pawn instead of the rook. This kind of fixes Black's pawn structure a little bit. He's able to support that pawn with the move e5 with the pawn. White's actually, according to the computer, doing a little better here, but I would be completely happy with this position if I were Black.
Yeah.
This is still very much so anyone's game.
Yep.
Black decides to move the rook back. He must have an idea to rotate it around to the queen side, possibly put it on the c file. He could also be looking to just open up his bishop. All right. White
Whoa.
looks to trade queens.
Yep. Moves the rook.
So now Black's basically saying if you want to trade queens, you have to trade down a ton of pieces. And Black's pawns look a lot nicer, or are a little further than White's pawns. So Black might have an advantage if we go to an end game here.
This queen exchange might actually end up with Black losing his rook if White actually ends up going for it right now. I'm inclined to actually believe that he could go out of his way to take for his queen to take the other queen. Then the pawn takes the white queen, and then the rook just goes out of the way to take the last. But then the bishop goes out. So yeah.
So yeah, it would just be trading down a bunch of pieces basically.
Didn't see. Wasn't paying that much attention to that one bishop over there. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, people all the time forget that pieces can move backwards. This is probably the one thing that I blunder on with most in chess is I just forget. You think it wouldn't be that hard to forget something like that, but
don't worry. At least I'm not alone.
Yeah. No, a lot of people do that for sure.
But we have a rook moving forward on d1, most likely a lose tempo and force. I think there's definitely a big motivation for either side to force a queen exchange at this time.
Yeah, I mean, White wants Black to take his queen, and Black wants White to take his queen. So they're kind of yeah.
And Black has more time to stall the game out too.
True. Yeah, now we're really getting down to just a couple minutes.
Devastating exchange. But honestly, if Black were to take the exchange right now, it wouldn't be as devastating as if White instigates the trades.
True. I do like Black's position a little more after if White takes the queen here. But if Black takes the queen, it doesn't really change anything.
Double attack on the white queen.
So yeah, Black's basically just trying to instigate White now to take his queen.
And I'm thinking too that this would actually, yeah. Moves the pawn forward to block the attack. Threatens the bishop. Will they fire? They do. Queen takes the queen. Knight takes the opposing queen. Both queens down. Black to move. And the pawn takes the opposing pawn. Opens up the attack, and he reveals the discovered attack. The pin plays out in Black. The pin plays out. White rook.
So now actually, now it's a little unclear because before Black had really great central pawns, but now that because of the way that the trades basically went out, Black's pawns are doubled in the center. So now
Yeah. Double.
so now it's very much so
file.
even. It's anyone's
Yeah.
game. No one has a very simple way to promote a pawn.
Bishop moves back.
White continues to get his king towards the center of the board.
Yeah.
And White has more pawns on the queen side, 3 versus 2. So he's going to probably want to fight over on the side of the board where he has more pawns.
Yep.
Black threatens the pawn. White moves it. And Black moves in his king to prevent White's king from moving any further. And now White probably just wants to get all of his pawns onto White squares to prevent the bishop from being able to attack them. He goes for this trade.
Yep. Queen moves back.
And now White wants to probably get his king around to the other side of the pawn so that he can bring it up and not have to deal with Black's king. But the Black bishop comes back.
Yeah, the bishop moves to pressure, and then those doubled pawns too. They actually do provide a wall to which the White king cannot so easily move around the Black bishop. Excuse me.
Yeah, no. White's definitely he doesn't have that many moves right now. He's in a position where there's not a lot he can do.
Even in time, 2-minute warning for both players.
All right, so White's now trying to remove the bishop.
Knight moves, threatening the bishop.
White's probably going to want to just push that pawn and then lock his king along the light squares up.
Bishop moves all the way to G. This is not yet captured.
So White's king is stopped from moving further because the Black king is blocking it from going any further.
Moves the White king back. White king moves back.
This is still anyone's game at this point.
Yeah.
None of the pawns can really move here. I'm actually having trouble finding any moves for either player.
Yep.
And the issue too is that Black could try to trade off. He could win a pawn if he were to take the b6 pawn right now. And then they would trade off the minor pieces, but then White's king would be so much closer to where all the pawns are in the board that White would have a very good chance at winning. Because he's basically able to take all of his enemy's pawns without his enemy being able to be there.
1 minute warning for Black.
And Black's bishop's also in a place right now where it's defending one of the weak pawns, so the White king can't move anywhere. But it's also preventing the knight from moving anywhere because it's covering all of the knight move squares. So after the Black moves, it's going to be really... Yeah.
This is a tempo loss. This is definitely a spot where White can stall out for time. Yes.
Yeah, this game might come down to just time.
Yeah.
Because Richard's running really low on the clock.
Yeah, he's running really low on the clock, thinking quite so long on this very crucial move. "20 seconds left.
White starts to bring the king back around. Now that if the king doesn't move back to c6...
Bishop takes the pawn.
Ooh, okay. So now it's a little harder to say. I think both kings are going to be able to make it back over to where all the other pawns are if they go for this trade. So White decides not to do it.
Trade.
Yeah, he wants to...
moving out. He's going to time him out. He's timing him out.
Yeah, he might just be trying to dirty flag at this point.
It is out. He's done.
And he won on time.
Richard is out of the tournament. Will G has taken it over Richard.
All right, that was a really great game.
It was an interesting tournament of events, I'll say that much. We had Willowgrass and Richard just basically at a standstill for so long, and it ultimately came down to who won that one big exchange mid-game.
It looks like we got raided on Twitch, by the way. So thank you to IPG Esports for the raid.
Oh, IPG Esports, they're very cool guys. Welcome aboard the stream, ladies and gentlemen. Kevin, hi there.
Yeah, you just missed the final game. I'm so sorry. Unless you've been here a while.
Yeah. Kevin's a good friend of ours. He's done a lot of good things for the organization, but he's not necessarily he's not a DePaul student per se, but yeah.
Cool.
But yes, that critical team, that one big, I almost said team fight. I'm sorry, League of Legends minded player. But yeah, that one crucial exchange mid-game, it came all the way down to who had more time to stall out their opponent after that whole ordeal, because after the whole thing played out, neither side had that much material to make any critical plays end game, and so that's what caused the winner of this game to take it over the other was by timing them out.
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely a situation in which players were not willing to trade because if they did trade, they were going to end up in worse positions that could possibly give the game to their opponents.
Yes.
So yeah, it looks like that's going to be it. That was a really that was the finals. It really came down to the wire. It looked like it was super even for like most of the entire match.
No, that entire match was like deadlocked for sure. I don't think either player really blundered or even really made mistakes.
Yeah,
it was a good game.
Those are very high level players. That this was a good grand finals to watch, even when it comes to chess, which is largely a waiting game in terms of grand finals. Honestly, though, yeah, that's just the nature of the game. You just want to wait for the other guy to make one critical mistake and then capitalize on it.
Right. Yeah, so that was a really exciting tournament overall. A lot of really great matches. Michael and Perry, both. Thank you both so much for hopping on the mic today.
Yeah, of course.
You're welcome.
Since we still have everybody watching, especially from the IPG raid, Kevin, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Perry, since we have everybody's attention, really quickly, while try to get a word back from Will, just to see if you wanted to share a couple words with the stream. Once again, plug the chess club. Where can people find you? How does everybody get involved with the chess club activities? Tell us how.
Yeah, so we are on D-Hub campus groups. So we meet every Wednesday from 5 to 6:30 Central. We play a bunch of just casual games then. We also have events, hopefully more like this in the future. But we also do stuff. We just recently started meeting with UIC and their chess club and playing games against them. But yeah, no, you can find us on D-Hub. We play games online. Anyone's welcome. We pretty much take in people from all sorts of levels, so don't feel like your level is not good enough to play with us or anything. Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah. So everybody, make sure if you like what you saw today, get some games in with the chess club. Everybody over there seems like a really great community, especially with so many knowledgeable people like Perry, like really holding it down on the mic for so long, both of you. So once again, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. You guys killed it on the mic today. It does seem, by the way, that Will is willing to share a couple words with the stream. Give us like a couple of maybe a couple of like insights into how strategy works. So just gonna go ahead and send him the link, and then we can see if we can get him on for a little bit.
Yes. We like saying hi to other people. Don't worry.
Oh yeah.
Yes, we do. We don't bite. Trust us. Trust us.
Both you and I know that we like to say hi to other people in the stream.
Yeah, absolutely.
8:33 p.m. right now, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Still haven't eaten dinner myself. I'm pretty hungry, honestly.
Neither have I.
I ate before the stream. because I knew it was going to go a while. So
I almost considered doing that too, but
I definitely tried to have like a larger lunch today to see if that would kind of get past the issue. But it seems like Will is here, so I'm gonna make sure that we get him onto the stream right here. Will, hello, can you hear us? Well, if you can't hear us, I don't think we can hear you. Try making sure that your mic settings are correct, and then see if you could speak. Oh, it's just 1 sec. Okay, 1 sec, everybody. Having just some quick technical difficulties. We'll be back shortly.
But yeah, really, there was a. How do you think that played out? That game played out from the opening. I mean, that opening was, like you said, all theory. By
yeah,
the
I'm
book
trying
until about mid game.
I think it was at around move. It was at least the first 10 moves, maybe 11 or 12, were all theory because they just played them instantly, and you could tell like they knew what they were doing, which is really impressive to like be put into a game in which you don't know what you're playing against, but you're still able to like, oh yeah, I remember this. So yeah, we'll see.
Right. Okay, Will, can you hear us now? I think I got something there for a second.
Potomac, you are hotkeyed. It looks to be you're transmitting, but it does sound like someone's stepping on you for a bit.
If you have like a headset microphone or something, make sure you're holding it up closer to your head so that it's easier to. There's nothing like cutting off the sound. One of the perks of having to play online tournaments, right? Sometimes technology will just disagree. You'll have everything set up, and then suddenly your microphone that was working for the past 5 years decided the 5 years was enough, and it's time to stop.
That's happens That's happened on occasion for me too. I mean, I've had some equipment failures to handle with on it sometimes, but yes. But honestly, too, like 10 moves in and on a Sicilian opening game. Would you think that would actually be a typical roadmap for games that run that opening?
God no. The Sicilian is so weird because it's one of the hardest openings to learn in chess because there's so many different ways that white can play into it.
You've got the unconventional C5 move out of E4 to.
It definitely looks a little weird, but it's actually considered like probably the strongest response to E4 as black. Because you're able to fight for the center with that pawn move, even though it's not in the center of the board. But the problem with it is that there are so many different variations and so many different possible ways the game could go right from the beginning that you have to learn a lot more lines, because there's also a lot of situations where even the slightest misstep could cost you the game or the opening. So to see players who really know the theory of it is impressive, because they probably had to learn theory on a ton of different variations, and we just happened to see one of those variations today.
Yeah, it's not like Gioco Piano where that opening is basically memorized by every single player. You know what I mean?
That's my go-to, yeah. And yeah, you basically play it the same way every time.
You play Gioco Piano the exact same way every time, and it's basically an opening that everyone can understand. That and Four Knights and Rui Lopez. I'll say that much.
Well, Will, we're talking about openings right now. If you can hear us, by the way, just let us know. But yeah, do you have any thoughts on what your strategy was like choosing the opening that you did? Oh, still seems like it's a little bit quiet over here. Let me see if there's something I can do on my end really quickly. Got edit mic settings, echo cancellation. Maybe that'll fix it. Who knows? All right, Will, try saying something. I think I might have fixed something. Nuts. Okay. Okay, last thing I could think of. The most insane, the most insane solution of all. Try unplugging your microphone, earbuds, or headset or whatever you're using and plugging it back in. Never mind. Maybe that wasn't the answer.
But let's hope. I mean, if
While we're waiting for
yeah,
Will, I think Richard just said in Twitch chat that his memory failed him on move 11. Knight B to D7 was like the first move kind of out of theory.
if Rook no further is Will, then he says he couldn't get it to work on Twitch chat. But yes.
But yeah, it seems like the correct move would have been either knight to C6. He could have moved the queen to C8. There was a couple different options. But yeah, that's how theory tends to go, is you memorize a bunch of moves, and then the moment you're out of theory.
And then the moment you're out of theory, you just play the game.
Yeah, you just gotta play, and
yeah. Trying to play solid openings that close the positions and use time advantage by playing quickly, says Twitch chat right now. So,
Well, big fan of the name Rook No Further.
yeah, I like that too.
I love
Yeah, I
little
like
like
that
wordplay
too.
puns. So, yeah, my
God.
appreciation. As somebody that has definitely watched a good amount of chess in their life, but is still a little bit clueless on a lot of like the finer print and the inner strategy behind it, can always appreciate the puns that come along the way, no matter what.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you probably heard this too. You heard our discussion on these weird weird names for chess openings right before we went into grand finals, right?
Yeah.
You heard
Oh,
that
yeah, yeah.
backstage, but yeah. I mean, literally, like I've seen. There's a lot of them that I can't really enumerate right now, but yeah, Latvian corkscrew counter gambit remains, I guess, the most memorable weird opening name. Like, and you're wondering what that sort of opening is as a newcomer, and like, what can that mean? What can entail that sort of name? Like, what series of moves can make it worthy of a name like that?
Yeah, that's definitely something that, like, as a newcomer, I think is pretty interesting. It's like, wow, this opening has such a not chess related name. Like, you kind of wonder, like, what's the story behind it? Like, why is it called that way, and why is it used so much?
Elephant Gambit.
Elephant Gambit. Yeah, that's the one that I've heard that I remember caught my attention right away.
Yes.
Yeah, so Will, welcome to DePaul, and if you're available on Wednesdays, feel free to stop by, and we'll if you're not in our, I think you're in our chess club, but if you're not in our chess group chat yet, let us know, and we'll add you to it, and we'll let you know if we have any other events that aren't on Wednesdays as well.
Yeah, that sounds perfect.
Yes. We're gonna be
Definitely.
Are we gonna be rating EGF after this?
I guess we could. I never really thought about that. I'd have to log into the Twitch on like a different web browser though. So I have to see if I could do it in time. We'll see. But in any case, yeah, it doesn't seem like the interview is going to really quite pan out this time around. But once again, congratulations to Will for an impressive victory. Definitely fought long and hard. Big kudos to Richard, of course, for coming in second place, putting up an excellent fight and an excellent finals. Definitely a lot of fun to watch. Again, even for a non-chess like player such as myself, this is really entertaining to watch, just to theorize what kind of tricks were up everybody's sleeve. So this is really great. Perry, Michael, thank you both again.
Sometime.
Yeah, of course.
I agree. Once again, this was the first of it. This is the first event of its kind, but definitely might not be the last event of its kind. So we'll see what's up on the horizon. But Perry, Michael, again, thank you both so much for coming by. I really appreciate you coming and just sharing the chess knowledge with us all. Anything else either of you two wanted to say to close things out? A couple of shout outs, maybe a couple of just quick quick comments you wanted to make, anything of the sort?
Shout out to Yuta.
Yeah, definitely.
Come to Chess Club. That's all I got.
Definitely come to Chess Club.
You guys don't have any Discords or any other socials that you can plug in at the moment, or is it just are you guys exclusively on DE Hub?
We're on D Hub, and we have a Snapchat group chat for people who join on D Hub. We tend to try to add them to our group chat there.
Nice.
But yeah.
Yeah, well then in that case, yeah. Again, thank you both so much for coming by, and thanks you to everybody for watching. Really, really appreciate it. Once again, if you are interested in Chess Club, as Perry's been saying multiple times throughout the stream, go check out their page on D Hub. They're very like I guess you could say like a tightly knit community. They all really like to play with each other, give each other pointers on like how to improve their game plan, get a lot of games in with each other. Great community, and obviously very, 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 very good for us to work with. So this is a great collaboration. Hope to see you all again in a similar position sometime in the future.
Yeah, of course. We would love to be back.
Yeah,
By the
absolutely.
way, shout out to the IPG regulars in chat. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. Shout outs to IPG for the raid. Shout outs to the Smash Brothers varsity team for playing in EGF right now. I've been getting notifications all evening, so go ahead and check that out if you want something else to watch that's related to DePaul Esports. And until next time, we'll see you all later.